They say that Nashville is a 10-year town. It takes 10 years to be discovered and get your shot. There's many ways to connect a decade's worth of dots, and no two journeys are the same. But these are the stories of those who moved to Nashville and made it happen. This is 10-Year Town.
This is like having a cup of coffee with somebody. Like this is what I would tell them.
Exactly. And that's basically what this is. That's actually, I should start telling people that. Dang, that's pretty good. So first, and think of this, we're just having a conversation. So I'll ask you some questions, but I always started off with the same question, which is, how long have you been in town?
It'll be 8 years in July.
Wow. 8 years.
Mm-hmm. So probably it will have passed 8 years by the time this comes out.
Yeah. If it ever, no, it'll come out.
I'm not sure when, but
I'm
not worried about that with you.
Where did you move from?
Waco, Texas.
Waco, Texas. Shiplap capital, USA.
Shiplap?
Yeah. Isn't that like Chip and Joanna Gaines' whole thing is like just shiplap backsplashes?
Absolutely.
So Waco's really come a long way in the last
I'm glad
10
it's
years.
Known for that for you more than Colt Town, USA. That
I think
is the other thing you could have said.
Yeah, I think we've talked before. My whole family, besides me, went to Baylor.
Right.
So I'm very familiar with Waco.
So we don't talk about the Colt.
Right. This is a long time ago now. What made you decide to move to Nashville?
I think probably what makes a lot of people decide to move here if they're a creative. I just was in a smaller town and I had a low ceiling on what I could do there.
Yeah.
And so when I started writing songs at a really young age, I knew, I had a couple people in my life, which I'm happy to extrapolate on that too.
Sure.
But I had a couple people in my life that told me early on about Nashville and that I could be a songwriter for a living.
Like that was a thing.
Yeah. I was like 12 and I knew that.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
And nice.
And so I didn't know what my path to get there was, but I knew that I wanted to go to college. For me personally, that was a good choice.
Yeah.
And I knew that immediately after I graduated, I was going to move to Nashville and pursue a career in songwriting.
What did you study in college?
Entrepreneurship.
Okay. Pretty good.
So I actually use it. And I used to own a business too that I sold a couple years ago.
Okay.
Which I don't know if you remember that about me.
I did not know that.
That I used to own a dog sitting company.
No.
You never knew that?
I never knew that.
I never told you about that?
No.
That's funny. I owned it for like 5 years.
That's pretty lucrative.
Yeah.
I got 2 dogs.
Yeah.
It ain't cheap.
No.
When I go out of town, it's just like another thing to add to the budget.
Yeah. Well, and my company that I started was targeted towards country artists that tour too. So it's called, it's still around. There's somebody else owns it now. Her name's Carly Schmidt.
Holy
but it's called Pup Stars.
Okay.
And so dog sitting for the stars, you know? Yeah. I
awesome. And I love that.
Yeah. And so
what made you decide, we're on a tangent here, but why did you, was it just too much to deal with? Like, is that why you wanted to sell it?
My whole life, I have always taken on more than I should.
Relatable.
Like, yeah. Since I was a little kid, I was on this team and that team and had this hobby and I did that thing. And like in high school and college, I was the same way. I was like vice president of this, president of that.
Yeah.
And which was great. And I learned a lot from that. But in my adult life, I really wanted to focus in as much as I could on just songwriting.
Yeah.
And like really prioritize. And so the company grew to a size where it was taking a good amount of my time and energy, and I was on the clock for it all the time. So I knew once I like didn't financially need it anymore, I wanted to
It was time.
pass it off to the right.
Yeah, to the right person.
Yeah.
But that's incredible. I never knew that.
Yeah.
Or maybe you told me and I forgot. That's also very possible.
That's what got my foot in the door in the music industry too. So
Wow.
it's like a part of my story for
Yeah,
sure.
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
So you're like, all right, moving to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you go? Like, what was your first stop?
I had done a little groundwork.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't have it figured out at all, but while I was going to Baylor during the summers, I interned for a small label and publishing company one summer. And I would just make trips here, not even really to co-write as much as just to take meetings and learn as much as I could and make sure that I wanted to move here.
Sure.
And I knew very quickly that I did want to do this. But so I laid a little groundwork and had a few friends here. And also while I was going to Baylor, there was a girl that was in my sorority who was from Nashville. Okay. And I had lived with her family that summer. They let me stay with them.
Nice.
Yeah. And absolutely a God thing. I'll never understand why they offered this to me, but they right before I moved to Nashville, they said, "Hey, do you want to try living with us for a year?"
Oh, wow. So you had
I had a free place to stay, which my gosh, like that doesn't happen. And I realized that, that was like God's favor and blessing in my life to like start my Nashville story off that way.
Absolutely.
But it's funny. I lived there, but I didn't really live there because I started dog sitting so much as soon as I moved here that I really.
And you were just going to people's houses. And
I mean, I lived like a gypsy for a couple years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And were you like writing songs at this? It sounds like you were writing songs kind of since you could, like at a young age.
So I'll explain that. Like I moved to Nashville knowing that I was going to have to work a lot of random jobs that I didn't want to make it work, and like try to create enough flexibility in my day to focus on writing songs at 11 a.m. every day when everyone who's serious about it is writing. Yeah. And so that's harder said than done, or easier said than done. I mean, because, if you take a day job, you're really only available
at night
to write at night. And people do that. It's just, from what I know, it's just a little tougher to break into the right circles that way.
Yeah. And I think that we know now, you'll rip a weekend or a night write every now and then, but the best writes are,
it's rare.
11 on a Tuesday.
Absolutely.
That's where the gold is,
Exactly. And that's when, most people that are doing it full time are writing then. So that's the circle you ideally want to network yourself into. Mm-hmm. So I knew that coming to town, I knew that was the goal. And so for me, I wasn't looking for that 9 to 5. I was looking for flexible work, and dog sitting. Like I had got enough dog sitting work that it was paying my bills and giving me a place to stay, and it kept me flexible, and I was able to write at 11 pretty much every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Did you know that I walked dogs in college?
No.
Yeah, I was a professional dog walker.
Oh my gosh, I relate hard to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine was in Boston, so it was like the 3 or 4 at a time.
Yeah.
But it was honestly, I tell people this all the time, and I mean it. It was the best job I ever had.
I get that.
It wasn't my dream to walk dogs, but in terms of show up, this little creature, it's just absolutely stoked to see you. You walk around. I mean, it was good.
It's the best because you don't have to entertain the dog. You don't have to talk to the dog. Right. I mean, like
it just loves you.
You get unconditional love for minimal effort. And
it's the best.
You get to go outside and have a nice walk and be in your own head and be thinking of something creative.
That was where I studied like songwriting the most, was that job for me. I would listen to like 3 records a day, just walking around Boston. And
that's exactly what I did. Yeah. And So I relate to that. I love that we share that
We
bond.
do. I love that. How did you start to kind of break into the scene? Like, did you catch a break somewhere along the way? What?
I mean, I think you know this as well as I do. When you get here, it seems really overwhelming. It seems like everyone and their mom is a songwriter in town, which maybe that's true. But like once you get a couple months into it, you kind of realize that it's a smaller community than you might guess. And so I think it's initially what I did. Do you remember the Yep page?
Oh, yeah.
And Yep is still going strong. They're such an awesome thing to get involved in when you move to Nashville.
Yeah.
Or even before, just to kind of follow that young entertainment professionals page and just kind of see who's posting on it. It's a great place to meet people. So the second day that I lived in Nashville, I posted on it. I posted a song I wrote and I said, hey, my name's Trannie. I just moved here from Texas. I don't know that many people and I would love to start getting some co-writes on my calendar and coffee with anyone who could possibly want to have coffee with me. And so I posted that. I got probably like 30, 40 comments on it.
Was there anybody?
Which was great.
Was there anybody that commented that you ended up meeting up with that you still write with today?
Not necessarily that I still write with today, but yeah, I mean, I made a connection with every single person that commented.
Yeah, that's
because I made it my full-time job to meet people.
Yeah,
and to write songs with them, even if they were turds of songs, which you're gonna write hundreds of turds of songs when you move here. It's just like part of the process.
No doubt. 90% fertilizer.
Yeah.
10%
That's a great way
good,
to say
but
it.
90%, yeah, it's just
but fertilizer makes everything else grow.
We need fertilizer. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, those first couple of months were really page writes that I tried out, and then in any of the ones that went well, like there was a girl named Lucy Scholl that I met, and that write went well, and she was like, "Hey, you should write with my friend Daniel, and you should write with this person and that person." And I got like 4 new co-writes just by taking a chance on that one co-write on the Yup page. And then that turned into, okay, now I like wrote 10 songs with Daniel, and he's pulling me in with his other buddies that have publishing deals.
Right.
And so it's like the spider web effect, I guess. It's like,
yeah. And you kind of start to hone in on that. You're getting closer and closer to like, because the thing that we all want, I think when we first moved here, is like, you want a deal. You want that publishing deal.
Yeah, that was my goal.
Like for me, it wasn't the money. I wanted the money, the salary, although it's not life-changing money as we
my
we
first
know.
deal, but definitely was not.
Yeah.
I can talk about that too.
But it's survival. But what I wanted, the reason I wanted a publishing deal is because I wanted the access. I wanted the calendar management. I wanted to write with, the people really doing it.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Same. And like for me, it partially was, I wanted the money aspect too, just so I could do it full time and like really pour all of myself into it and not worry about having to walk 10 dogs a day eventually, and I that's part of it. Like I wouldn't trade one day that I wasn't writing full time because it prepared me for what I'm doing now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and it gave you the work ethic. I mean, it sounds like you already had a great work ethic, but
paying dues is very important.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade that.
Yeah. You got to know what it costs.
Yeah.
To be here. It eventually, I guess, turns into your first deal, your first publishing deal. How did that happen?
Yeah. So like I said, I was writing every day too. So I was growing this catalog. I probably had like 150, 175 songs in it at the point that this little break happened for me. I'd been dog sitting for a lot of country stars.
Yeah.
And a couple of them, I got to know decently well, and they knew I was a songwriter. One of them was Caroline Hobby, and she's amazing. She actually has a podcast too.
Okay, awesome.
And at the time, she was in the group Runaway June.
Yeah.
And so she just was so kind to me for no reason. I could give her nothing. Like, she gained nothing by being kind to me, but she was. And she introduced me to a lot of people and listened to a lot of those songs in that catalog. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And helped me pick out ones that she thought were
good,
worth a shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I demoed a couple of those, and then Jennifer Wayne, who's also in Runaway June, she still is. She kind of did the same thing for me. It just took a special interest in me as a person, and they both set up a bunch of publishing meetings for me that summer, and I got a publishing deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I had probably 10 meetings that, they passed on me, or they maybe set up 1 or 2 rights for me with someone on their roster 2 months out, and then it got moved twice,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
there's that weird thing where I call it the publisher dance.
Oh yeah.
Where you're talking to publishers and you're like, do you,
it feels like you're dating.
Do you like me? Do I don't know what's happening here. But and then eventually one's like, all right, we want to offer you a deal. And it's like, oh, this is it. This is the moment I've been waiting for.
That was well said. It feels like you're dating a bunch of people that you're way more into than they are into you.
Yeah. Exactly. Where was your first deal?
At a small company that doesn't even exist anymore, but it was called Catch This Music.
Oh yeah.
And I think I met you and was writing there when the first couple times we wrote.
Yeah, that makes sense, because it was, what was it? Jimmy Bell was over there?
I think that was our mutual connection. I knew that Jimmy was friends with you, and I knew I loved your voice and just your artistry in general. And I still do.
Oh, thank you.
But that was the first time I heard about Troy Cartwright.
Yeah.
Was from Jimmy. And so Jimmy and I were there together. We were kind of I think there were only 3 of us there still when it closed.
And so when that company closed, was there any shrapnel, or were you free and clear to kind of go somewhere else? More or less.
Anyway. I was free and clear to go.
Okay.
It ended in kind of a messy fashion.
Sure.
I was only a year and a couple months into the deal.
Mm-hmm.
So it ended, hopefully your deal ends cleanly and you get all the money that you were promised.
Sure.
For me, it was getting a phone call and they said, yeah, you're not getting a paycheck next month, even though you're supposed to for the next 7 months. Sorry. And so that was tough. That was pretty crappy, but it really all worked out beautifully. I'll make this part short, but I got that phone call 2 days before I got married.
Oh, yeah, that's
which the
not
timing,
a stressful time at all.
Yeah, the timing of that was wild, but actually it was decent timing because I was so focused on the wedding and my husband and our honeymoon that a devastating phone call like that was overshadowed by all the rest of the things and emotions I was feeling. So, we went on our honeymoon and I actually got a couple calls from publishers on my honeymoon.
That's sick.
Yeah, at least wanting to meet.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre to me because I didn't have any guts.
Well,
I had a raw talent, baby.
somebody was looking out for you.
Yeah.
And I think I remember the first time we wrote, you're it speaks for itself.
Oh, thanks.
The talent and the thing that always sticks out to me when I write with you is you're always incredibly prepared. Yeah. With a great idea.
I am prepared.
It's good. It's good. A lot of people are not.
That would actually be some of my advice is
be prepared.
Be prepared.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people say that.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about the preparation.
Yeah.
And it is important. But as you are probably aware, or maybe you're not aware, it's like there's preparation. There's also like working hard.
Yeah.
You're a very hard worker, but you also like have to have some sort of plan for like, all right, people write at 11.
Yeah.
What can I do with my other hours to like survive long enough to be able to write at 11?
Yeah. And like to survive. And I would also say like, what can I do that's going to serve what I have to do at 11?
Yeah.
Not what I have to do, what I want to do at 11, because that's what you want to be doing when you move here is you want to be writing at 11 with everyone else.
Yeah.
So I thought deeply about how the rest of my day could serve that.
Yeah. Yeah. I did not put that kind of thought into. I should have. That might have saved me some time. I just thought, what if I go to Red Door like every night?
That's another way to do it.
Yeah.
That's not the way I did it, but
I wouldn't recommend it, but I did. I'm still here somehow. So, but no, I met a lot of people that way. I did.
Absolutely.
I did. And I moved here. I didn't move here right after college. I was a little bit.
Yeah.
I kind of did my first 3 or 4 years in Texas, and came in a different way. Was your next deal, was that at Sony or?
Yes.
Okay.
So I signed at Sony in 2018.
Okay.
That summer.
Been going pretty good, huh?
It's been, what year is it? It's 2023.
Yeah.
So it's been 5 years at Sony, and it's been such a great home for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's had challenges for sure. I've had like 3 different publishers there.
Yeah, a lot of big company.
Yeah, a lot of turnover, and I mean, just to be like up front too, the first couple of years, like some gatekeeping at my own company too. That was that was hard. That was hard for me. I mean, now I feel like the team knows me and they believe in me and they see me and they're plugging me in.
Yeah.
Where it really fits and I'm seeing fruit. But it took a while for it to get there.
Yeah. It takes a while. I mean, it's hard. It's hard when you're like, why am I not? You have all these huge writers at this company, but they're not on my calendar. And it just takes a while to figure out like, oh, okay, I'm just probably not there yet.
Yeah.
And
totally.
I was trying to remember, why would they want to write with me?
Totally.
If I don't have a good reason for that, then I shouldn't expect, whether they're at my company or not, I can't. It was, I've had many different phases of my career, but when I first got signed to a record deal, it was like I was getting in some big rooms, and I know, and now looking back, I'm like, oh, duh. Like I understand why that is now, and now some of those rooms are a little harder, but I understand why that is, and I'm stoked to be here.
part of the process.
That's right. Part of the journey.
Yeah.
So can we talk about Heart Like a Truck a little bit?
Yeah.
So was it your first number one?
Mm-hmm. Dang. First
Congrats.
Number one. Thank you.
Congrats. How did you, when did you write it? How did it come about? Like, tell me the story.
So Lainey and I have been friends for a long time.
Okay.
I met her 2 weeks after moving to Nashville.
Oh, wow.
And our friend Steven, he lived here for a while. He was a mutual friend of ours that is from my hometown, but kind of fell into Lainey's friend group while he was living here.
Okay.
And I think this was a God thing too. I mean, the timing was just weird. So he moved back to Waco.
Yeah.
And I moved to Nashville like a couple days later. So we were ships passing in the night, and we got a drink together, and he said, I think you would be friends with this girl named Lainey Wilson. I'm going to give you her number. And so he gave me her cell, and I reached out to her, and we got coffee a couple weeks after I moved. Yeah. And Lainey and I still talk about that. She's like, I remember the earrings you were wearing. Like it was our first date and it went really well.
Oh my God.
And we wrote a couple songs together after that.
Yeah.
And this was like kind of right after she moved out of her trailer.
Yeah.
And so we've been friends for a long time and writing together for a long time. And it's been just pretty awesome to watch everything unfold the way that it has.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there was like a 2-year period when she had signed at Sony and I signed at Sony a couple months after that. And even though I'd written with her a good amount, she was kind of like that hot artist at Sony that like kind of what you were saying, like all the big dogs wanted to write with her.
Oh yeah.
And so her calendar was just crazy.
Yeah, you kind of get the homies kind of get pushed out for a second.
Yeah. And like,
but it comes back.
Well, like I used to be like during that time I was like, oh, that's a bummer. Like I really love writing with Lainey. I love to write with Lainey.
Yeah.
But I watched the Lord just time that out perfectly. Like I don't think we would have written the right songs together.
Yeah.
If we had written that entire time. And so 2 years goes by, and the first song we wrote 2 years after not having written a song together was with our friend Dallas Wilson, and
Wow.
we wrote "Heart Like a Truck."
Dang.
And
when did y'all write it? Like what was this?
2020.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what month. It was like in the fall of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I also remember like the day before that write, I got canceled on, and I used to be like upset when that happened to me. Yeah. Now I'm like, great.
Yeah.
I get a day
Free
to like,
day.
well, like I get a day to think in my own head and be in my own head and sit at my piano and create. But at that time I was like, dang, I felt like I lost momentum or something, when I got canceled on.
Yeah, of course.
But so that day I was like, I think I'm just going to like go on a walk or something. So I went on a walk at McCabe and was listening to music, and I thought of the hook "Heart Like a Truck" on that walk. So it's like, thank God that I got canceled on,
Yeah.
It's just funny how all those things are like a chain reaction.
That's wild. Did you have the melody, or did you just have the hook?
I had the hook, and
I bet you had that melody figured out before you went to that write.
Well, I did write a chorus for it, but it was like an up-tempo version of what "Heart Like a Truck" could have been. And I played it for them, and I was like, what do y'all think of this idea and like this vibe for it? And Lainey said, I love the hook, and I like a lot of the lines, but I think we could have more emotion, like a more emotional melody, and just kind of like just be more honest with it. And I was like, all right, I'll go there with you.
Yeah.
And so Dallas started playing something, and then that's when the right vibe happened for it.
That's awesome. And that's a great artist too, to say, hey, this is like close, but let's tweak and let's make it perfect.
Absolutely.
Did you know, like, that day, whenever you got the demo back, were you like, this is a monster?
No, I mean, we knew it was good.
Yeah.
We knew it was good, but
because you don't write a song like that, every day.
Yeah, we knew it was good, and we knew Lainey made it very obvious that she loved it.
Yeah.
And like it made her very emotional. I remember like when she heard it for the first time, she FaceTimed Dallas and was crying.
Oh.
And it was so sweet. And so we knew it was a special song to her, but like her debut record hadn't come out yet. Like Things a Man Ought to Know hadn't been a hit yet.
Right.
So there was still like, it was like, is this a Lainey song? Like, we don't really know what a Lainey hit sounds like yet. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was just like God's timing in all of that.
Yeah.
That it ended up being a fit for her.
I don't remember exactly when it came out, the song itself.
May 2022.
Okay, so it was a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of had to wait.
Yeah.
I'm remembering now because I knew somebody that was in her camp, and he was like, "She's got this song coming out." And he was like, "Troy,
Oh,
it's a hammer," you know.
okay, I love it.
Yeah, so when that song came out, like it was a feature. It was like the single, right? Or am I making that up?
Yes.
Okay. Which is what you want, but like
right, but that rarely happens.
I
now.
know it does. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, that's why Lainey. So we wrote it in 2020, and Lainey cut it like spring of 2021.
Okay.
So it was in the world for a while, and
yeah,
I knew early on because she had told me, and other people had told me, like, "Hey, it's going to be my next single," and I wanted to believe that so much, but it's just when you hear that a year before that's the case.
Takes a lot of patience.
Yeah, I just had to like live with that information in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
And like,
and how many times have you had your hopes shattered?
several, several,
Same.
which is also character building.
Yes, it is. What did it feel like when it came out? And then to me, you know, I probably wasn't watching as closely as you were, but to me, it came out and it was just like, it never stopped. Was that how you felt, or were there some moments there where you were worried about it or whatever?
I don't know.
Or do you not look that closely?
You know, I didn't look as closely as I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
I guess for me, since I was writing every day, and like we were talking about earlier, like I am preparation queen to a fault sometimes too. It's like I was paying attention out of one eye, but like I really, like, my blinders were on, and I was thinking about like
that's good.
what I'm writing next, and like the other artists I'm excited about too. And so yeah, I mean, and that actually kind of helped me stay sane too, because having a single go to radio is so exciting, but it also is such an emotional journey if you let it be that. And I wanted to protect my emotions a little bit, I guess.
No, yeah.
And like be excited when I had something to be excited about.
Sure, yeah. You cross certain milestones or whatever, but
yeah, I will say like the moment I was nervous was the day before it was official on Mediabase, because Bailey Zimmerman Rockin' a Hard Place
gotcha
was happening all at the same time. And like, I mean, it was
close,
freaking close.
Yeah.
And I have a hilarious memory about that. I mean, it was like not that long ago. Yeah. But you know, I pictured in my mind like, oh, cool. Like when I have my first #1 someday, I'm going to wake up in my house and wake up next to my husband, and we're probably going to go have a fun breakfast, and it's going to be this, and I'm going to feel this. Well, no, I was in Minneapolis, Minnesota, playing a corporate show with Cameron Bedell and Nick Wayne. And I mean, no one in my family or close circle was around. I was like, I literally woke up in a hotel room in Minneapolis hungover, and I was like, yay, Heart Like a Truck is #1.
Oh my God.
And I'm sitting on the bathroom floor going, why did I drink so much bourbon last night? But
well, you were celebrating.
Oh, I was like the most hungover happy woman of all time.
Oh my God. That's incredible.
But that was the only time I was nervous. And that's why I was hungover too, because
you were nervous.
I was nervous.
Yeah. Wow.
And we had all these random people at the show that were just buying us free drinks. And me and Cameron and Nick just had the time of our lives.
I love it. Well, that's probably the best thing you could have done.
Yeah, probably.
To keep your mind off of it.
Yeah.
I know that you haven't probably had that much time away from it or perspective, but I ask a lot of people like how it felt.
Yeah.
How did it make you feel?
I would say for me right now, it was almost pure relief.
Yeah.
I haven't had a fear element really creep in, thankfully, which is also surprising because that is absolutely a sin nature of mine, is to be fearful.
Sure.
But I haven't felt fear surrounding that. But it did feel like a sigh of relief when I woke up and looked at my phone and I saw that it was number one.
Yeah.
And because since I was a little kid, I mean, I started writing songs when I was 7, and I just felt the culmination of all of those
Mm-hmm.
efforts and moments and yeses and nos exhale from my lungs
Yeah.
when I looked at that phone.
Yeah. That's so special.
Yeah, and I cried and I called my mom and I called my husband.
Yeah.
And yeah. It also doesn't feel like an I've arrived moment either. Like, it feels like a sigh of relief, but it also feels like I have so much work that I have left to do and I want to do, and I'm lucky to get to do.
Yeah. Yeah, we had Mark Beeson on here,
Yeah.
and he said, I forget exactly how he phrased it, a lot more eloquently than I'm about to, but he's like, basically the gist of it was like, the number one isn't for that song. The number one is a representation of the 15 years of work.
Yes.
You know, that's just like
that's exactly how I feel.
That's the cherry on top, you know.
Yeah.
It's the accolade, but the accolade is beneath the accolade is just years of, like you said, no's and, you know, heartbreak and all the stuff that goes into it that makes the songs good, you know?
Yeah, and I wouldn't trade any of it. I'm so thankful for all of it because it's what has formed me into the person I am now that could write a song like Heart Like a Truck.
That's right.
So
it's a real song.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I would say relief. We'll see if the fear sets in later.
I didn't mean to like plant that seed for you. I didn't mean
well,
it
no,
like
but
that.
that's what I've heard from most songwriters, like, is that exact sentiment. I think part of it too for me is I guess I'm not completely fearful about what comes next because I've worked really hard to form like real relationships with the artists that I love.
Yeah.
So there's some loyalty there too. It's like I'm not worried about them ditching me and never cutting another song of mine again. You know, it's like I already see what's in the pipeline and what I have to be excited about.
That's awesome.
And like, so I think that probably calms some of that could creep in.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a nice like moat.
Yeah,
you know?
a moat.
Yeah, you got some things that are protected, you know.
Yeah.
From other people or whatever.
I think, sorry, I'm dwelling here, but like the last thing I would say is the reason I don't feel fear is because I've also realized the longer I've done this, how little control I have.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I'm in control of is showing up every day with a good attitude and a good song idea and writing it the best I possibly could and being kind to the people in the room with me. And
that's it.
And that's really like truly it. I have no control over anything else that happens. And so I've learned how much bigger all of this is than me. And that is such just a relief to my soul. Like it's freedom, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is like stops fear from creeping in when you like are surrendered to the process.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. We have no control. We basically
very little,
you know, do the best you can in the room.
Yeah.
Maybe you tweak it if you need to, but it's about it. You know, somebody else has got to like it after that.
Yeah.
Which is hard. Yeah. I'm a control freak, so I really hate that part.
Yeah. But the longer you do it, the hopefully like if you're leaning into the right things, you mentally just become a stronger, healthier person.
Absolutely.
After going through trials and tribulations, because there will be some if you haven't experienced it yet.
No doubt. Yep. It's the people you're with that keep you sane.
100%.
You know. Do you worry, like, not worry, but do you focus, some people are very disciplined about like, this is my brand as a songwriter, and some people are very like, I don't know, man, I just show up and write the best song that I can. Do you think about it in those terms at all? Or
maybe a little bit.
yeah.
I mean, revisiting something we talked about, I was an entrepreneurship major and my dad was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I was that kid that always had like some little business going, or like my mind absolutely works that way.
Yeah.
But I think the only brand that I've been intentional about building, especially as a woman, is just not being pigeonholed into, oh, Trannie only writes female songs that sound like this.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, I think, a little more challenging for a female writer than a male writer in some regards. Because I remember initially getting signed to a publishing deal, and like the artist opportunities that were thrown at me were all this 16-year-old female artist. And it was like, well, yeah, great. I believe in her, but also that's not all I write.
Right. Yeah. I'm not just this.
So it's been important to me to build my brand in a way where I'm seen as a writer first, and my gender and the cuts that I have are seen second.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And I've done that a couple ways, like being really intentional about casting a wide net with the artists that I'm writing with, or the types of songs that I'm writing if it's not with an artist.
Right.
And then also golf has been really helpful to me. Has become part of my brand, because I didn't realize how helpful that is to me to like get to know guys, honestly.
No doubt.
Like I've gotten a ton of co-writes and new, really genuine, great friendships by playing golf with the guys.
Yeah.
And I want to pull more women into that too. I'm like constantly going to the range with
whoever.
Yeah, who wants to learn to play golf. And I'm just fortunate that I grew up playing and that it's
You pretty lights out. You pushed me around out there a couple times. I remember. But yeah, like having a hobby, having a thing that you can draw people into is so important. I was always like felt at a disadvantage when I moved to town because I like wasn't from Georgia, which felt like a liability for some reason.
Oh my gosh.
You know, I wasn't like a huge, like I went to a music college, so I was not like a huge like college football fan.
Right.
Like I love college football, but I don't have like a team, you know? I mean, I kind of root for Baylor nominally because of my family.
Yeah. Which thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We need all the help we can get here.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple of years, but yeah. So it's hard, you know, you just kind of got to, where you can find a way to spend time with people. That's
absolutely,
you know, for me it was Red Door. For you it was golf, you know. I mean, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To answer your question on the brand, that's really like what I focused on, was just like casting the wide net and not being pigeonholed.
Yeah.
And I think in moments I have been, but now like you can look at the cuts I've had and there's not really a way to pigeonhole me.
Right. It's a wide net.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of, if you were starting over tomorrow, moving to town, 20, 22 years old, whatever, what's like something you would make sure that you told yourself to do?
Just chill out a little bit more, maybe.
Yeah. Enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I would say that, especially for like my first couple years. And I also think that's just part of being in your 20s. Like I turned 30 last year.
Yeah.
So I'm freshly out of my 20s, and like looking back on my 20s, there were just some moments that were too much of a roller coaster, and it didn't have to be that way. You know? I've just learned in my old age that that things just work out the way they're supposed to, and like any feeling of discomfort or sadness that it might last a couple weeks, but you're going to have a really good day in 3 weeks. And it's going to be worth any of the discomfort you had. And then to speak to that too, you don't want to get too high on any of that either. You just kind of, that's why like what I always tell people when they first move to town and we get coffee, I think that the key to life is really just to like be healthy emotionally, be healthy physically, work out, eat decent food.
Some meditation, you know?
Some meditation. I'm so serious. Like those are the things I would tell them. And like surround yourself with people that are life-giving to you, and don't make sure you feel happier walking away from getting drinks with somebody than like feeling self-conscious about who you are, or like or whatever the negative thing could be. If you're doing all of those things, like everything in your life is going to play out. It will.
Yeah. Your crew that you surround yourself with, like, is everything.
Absolutely.
It's important, you know? And being happy is important. Being like a good, like you said, a well-rounded person that exercises and maybe has a semblance of a morning routine. All of those things help.
I'm big on the morning routine. Big on the morning routine. Because what we do is a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think anybody moving here and going, okay, like, I'm just thinking about the next 2 weeks and like what that's going to look like. And I'm going to cram it all in there and like try to conquer the world in 6 months. No, it doesn't work that way. Mm-mm. It does not work that way. So I would think long term and just like one day at a time, just take care of who you are and what is going to keep you good for the marathon.
Yeah. We talked about on here before, like making sure that whatever the thing is that you're doing is being done in a way that you feel that you can sustain for a long time.
Yes.
Because it's easy to, I'm going to write 3 times a day for the next 3 weeks or whatever, but you'll burn out, like, or you'll be bad. Like you got to find the thing that you love to do and find a way to do that thing that you can do day after day, hopefully for years and years and years.
Yeah. And everybody's a little different, but I think if you make your priority figuring that out and dialing it in to where it is sustainable, you're going to have a career in Music City. Like
That's right.
You will.
That's it. Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm very honored that you're here.
Me too.
I feel like there's so much that we didn't get to. So another time.
It's always that way.
Yeah.
We covered some good stuff.
So yeah, I appreciate you, and I'm so happy for you and your first
Troy.
number one. And
thanks, Troy. I'm happy for you.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'm excited about this podcast.
Yeah, me too. All right, that's it. That's the pod. See you later. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode of 10 Year Town. We're doing a Q&A episode at the end of the month, so if you have a question for us, go to 10yeartown.com and click on the Q&A button to submit your questions. We also drop new interview clips throughout the week on all our social channels, so follow 10 Year Town on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, etc. And don't forget to subscribe to the show on Apple and Spotify podcasts to get all new episodes every Tuesday. We'll see you next week.